Welcome back. In the last video, we explored what the world actually needs. You started looking outward at frustrations, gaps, and groups of people you feel drawn to help. You sketched some early ideas about where your strengths might meet those needs. Here in today's lesson, video 11 in our course on Ikigai, we're going to take that a big step further. We're moving from guessing to listening. This lesson is all about empathy interviews and a way of thinking called jobs to be done. Don't worry about the jargon. What it really means is this. You learn to understand what people are actually trying to get done in their lives, what's getting in their way, and how it feels from their perspective. When you do that well, you stop building solutions in a vacuum and start creating things that genuinely land. By the end of this video, you'll know what an empathy interview is and why it's so different from a survey or market research chat. How to structure a simple, powerful conversation that reveals real needs, not just surface complaints. What jobs to be done means in human language, and how it helps you see opportunities for your Ikigai. How to turn what you hear into concrete notes you can use on your Ikigai map and in your later experiments. Let's begin with the heart of it. Empathy. Empathy in this context doesn't just mean feeling sorry for someone or being nice. It means being willing to step into their world for a while. It means holding back your own story and your clever solutions and letting their reality be the main character of the conversation. An empathy interview is a structured way of doing that. It's a one-on-one conversation where your goal is not to pitch, not to fix, but to deeply understand. You're there to listen, to ask good questions, and to reflect back what you're hearing so the person actually feels seen. Why is this so important for Ikigai? Because earlier in this course, we talked about beautiful poverty and other traps that happen when you build your life or work based mainly on your own preferences. You might love something and you might be really good at it, but if you're not connecting it to real needs, you end up shouting into the void. Empathy interviews pull you out of your own head and into the actual lives of the people you might serve. They help you see whether your assumptions are accurate, where the real pain points are, and what a good outcome looks like in their language, not yours. So, what does a simple empathy interview look like? Start with one person from a group you care about. Maybe that's a mid-career professional feeling stuck, a small business owner overwhelmed with admin, a nonprofit leader trying to reach donors, or anyone else you have some connection to. Reach out in a low-pressure way. You might say something like, "I'm exploring how people like you experience. I'm not selling anything. I just love to listen and understand what it's really like for you. Would you be open to a 30-45-minute chat?" Make it clear this is not a sales conversation. Your goal is understanding. When you sit down, online or in person, set the tone. Thank them for their time. Let them know you're genuinely interested in their experience and that nothing they say is wrong or too small. You're there to hear their story. Then ask open-ended questions that start from real events, not abstractions. One of the most powerful ways to do this is to anchor your questions in specific recent episodes. Instead of asking, "What do you usually find difficult about your job?" ask, "Can you tell me about the last time you felt really frustrated at work and walk me through what happened from the beginning?" You're asking for a story, not a summary. Here are some examples of questions that work well in empathy interviews. Tell me about the last time you tried to, what was happening? What was the hardest part about that experience? How did you feel at each step? What did you try to do about it? What worked, even a little? What didn't? If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about this situation, what would it be? Notice what these questions have in common. They pull the person into concrete memories. They invite detail. They focus on what actually happened, not on generic opinions. As they talk, your job is to listen more than you speak. You can encourage them with short phrases like, "Tell me more about that," or "What happened next?" When they use a word like overwhelmed or stuck, you can gently probe, "When you say overwhelmed, what does that feel like for you? What's going through your mind?" You're not interrogating. You're following their story like a curious, respectful guest. You'll also want to pay close attention to the language they use, the exact words and phrases, the metaphors. Do they say they feel drowned in emails or cut off from support or like I'm spinning my wheels? These phrases are gold because later, when you're framing your offers or content, using their language will help them feel instantly understood. Now let's bring in the jobs to be done idea in simple terms. Jobs to be done, often shortened to JTBD, is a way of looking at human behavior that says people don't just buy products or services, they hire them to do a certain job in their life. That job can have layers: a functional job, the practical outcome they want; an emotional job, how they want to feel or avoid feeling; a social job, how they want to be seen by others. For example, someone doesn't just hire a career coaching program. Functionally, they hire it to help them make a career change. Emotionally, they might hire it to feel less anxious and more confident. Socially, they might hire it to feel like they're not falling behind their peers. Someone doesn't just hire a budgeting app. Functionally, they want to track money. Emotionally, they want to feel safe and in control. Socially, they might want to show their partner that they're responsible. When you're doing empathy interviews, you're listening for these jobs. You're trying to understand, what are they trying to get done in their life here? How do they want to feel? And what are they trying to move away from emotionally? How do they want others to see them? Let's take a concrete example tied to your manuscript's themes: mid-career professionals who feel stuck. Functionally, the job might be figure out a next step that won't wreck my finances or relationships. Emotionally, the job might be help me stop feeling trapped, ashamed, and behind. Socially, the job might be help me look like I'm making a smart move, not a reckless leap, in the eyes of my family and peers. When you get clear on those jobs, you're no longer thinking, I want to help people with careers in general. You're thinking, I might be able to help people who feel stuck design safe, smart experiments that reduce their fear and make them feel more in control. That's a much more precise and powerful intention. Let's walk through how an empathy interview might look in practice with someone like this. You might start with, tell me about the last time you seriously thought, I can't keep doing this job. What was going on that day? They describe a day, a conflict with a boss, a sense of boredom, another round of meaningless meetings, a moment when they saw their own reaction and thought, this isn't me. You follow up. What did you do after that? Did you talk to anyone? Did you look up anything? They might say they Googled career change, felt overwhelmed, scrolled, then shut the laptop. You ask, what stopped you from taking any further steps? They might say, fear, money, not knowing where to start, feeling like maybe I'm just being ungrateful. Already you're hearing functional, emotional, and social jobs. Functionally, they need a way to take the first step safely. Emotionally, they need reassurance, clarity, and reduced shame. Socially, they're worried about how it looks or about letting people down. You're not promising to fix this yet. You're just hearing it. After the interview, you're going to take notes, not just on what was said, but on patterns across different conversations. If you talk to 5 or 10 people in a similar situation and they all, in their own words, mention fear, not knowing where to start, concern about money, and worry about what others will think, then you have a very clear picture of the job to be done. From an Ikigai perspective, this is incredibly valuable. You can now ask, which part of this job am I uniquely equipped to help with, given my strengths and capital? Maybe you're great at designing step-by-step plans. Maybe you're good at helping people manage their inner state. Maybe you're skilled at translating complex financial considerations into simple, actionable choices. Whatever your answer is, you've now got a bridge between you and the people you want to serve. Not a hypothetical bridge, but one built from their real stories. This is the essence of the power of listening chapter in your manuscript. You're replacing projection with presence. You're replacing assumptions with actual words from real people. So how do you move from empathy interviews to something you can actually write on your Ikigai map? After a few conversations, set aside time to synthesize. Look at your notes and ask, what pains or frustrations showed up again and again? What desires or hopes did people mention repeatedly? What emotional tones were strongest? Fear, shame, confusion, hope, relief. What exact phrases keep showing up? Then, try to write one or two problem statements in their language, not yours. For example, people like X are trying to Y, but they struggle with Z, and they feel A, B, and C. You might end up with something like, mid-career professionals are trying to change direction without losing everything, but they feel paralyzed by fear, ashamed of wanting more, and they have no clear starting point. That statement becomes a guiding line on your Ikigai map in the What the World Needs circle. It's no longer vague, it's specific. It refers to real people you've spoken with. Later, when you design offer prototypes, which we'll talk about in the next video, you'll come back to this statement as a way to sanity check your ideas. Instead of asking, "Do I like this idea?" you'll ask, "Does this idea actually help with the jobs and pains I heard in those interviews?" Before we close, let's address a common fear. Who am I to run empathy interviews? You might worry that you're not official enough, that people won't talk to you, or that you'll be awkward. That's normal. But remember, you're not asking for their credit card, you're asking to listen. Most people appreciate being genuinely listened to, especially about a problem that weighs on them. You don't need to present yourself as a guru. You can simply say, "I'm exploring how people experience. It would really help me to hear your story. There's no pitch, just listening." People can say no, and that's okay. Many will say yes. And if you feel awkward at first, that's part of your own practice loop. You'll get better at these conversations the more you do them. Just like any skill, empathy interviewing improves with repetition, feedback, and reflection. So your action after this video is clear. Identify one group you feel drawn toward and line up at least 2 or 3 empathy interviews over the next couple of weeks. Prepare a few open-ended questions. Go in with curiosity, not an agenda. Take good notes. Then come back to your Ikigai map and update the need circle with what you've learned. In the next video, we're going to build directly on these insights. You're going to learn how to design offer prototypes, tiny, low-risk ways to help that group of people, so you can see what resonates, what doesn't, and where real demand lies. That's how we move from listening to action without betting the farm. You're doing powerful work here. By listening deeply, you're honoring the people you might one day serve, and you're building a much more solid foundation for your own Ikigai. I'll see you in the next lesson.